Batman and Robin number 25, written by Peter Tomasi, art by Patrick Gleason, or should I say Batman and Two-Face, since that's what this whole trade is. So, last issue, we met Erin McKillen, who was the person who actually made Two-Face. She's the one who poured the acid onto Harvey, and she came back into town because she's the head of a mob family, and so Two-Face heard about it, and Batman put her in jail. So we open up in jail where Jim's basically saying, "Hey, Miss McKillen, fancy coming back here." And she's like, "Okay, hi, how's it going? I want my phone call. Give me that." And she's like, "Okay, we can get your lawyer down here. You don't have to waste your phone call on that. We all know you're a mob lawyer." And she's like, No. I want you to put in a call for Bruce Wayne." And before Jim can ask any more questions, all of a sudden acid starts leaking through the roof of the building. And he goes up the stairs. He sees it's on multiple floors. And it's like, crap. All right, seal the building. I'm heading up to the roof. And as they get up there, they see the bat signal has been half burned off in an acid attack. And Jim Gordon says, "Well, I guess Harvey Dent has made his opening statement." So across the street from GCPD, Harvey's standing on top of a roof. And Batman's like, "Hey, you messed with my signal, man." And Harvey's like, "Yeah, well, the alternative was worse, and I figured this would get your attention." So at that point, Batman says, "Look, she needs to go through the system. She's arrested. Just let the cops put her in jail." And Two-Face is like, "You know that's not how this goes. I need to get my revenge. She's the one who killed my wife and did this to me. So, yeah, originally my plan was I was going to storm in there guns a-blazing, but I changed my mind. So, yeah, I'm going to be going after her whether you like it or not." And Batman basically says, like, "You do understand, like, I could just take you in now and stop you entirely." And so he pulls out a detonator from his pocket with a timer on it. And he's like, "Yeah, well, the bomb's got 10 seconds left. They're underneath that tarp on the building opposite. Bye." And so Batman goes, and he does this whole pose in front of the American flag, like Dark Knight Returns style. I don't get it, but it's there. And he saves this group of people that's just bound and gagged under a tarp from a bomb. So everyone gets free. And then Batman gets the call from Erin McKillen saying, "Oh, she wants to speak to Bruce Wayne." So we cut back to quote unquote then, which I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure when then is supposed to be until the end of this. So we see some like cop car or morgue van or something gets broken into, shots are fired, and as they break open the back of it where there's a body bag, we see Erin McKillen was in there trying to escape, or this was the escape plan. And it's her goons that are the ones opening the thing. And we see that Shannon was apparently killed. And Shannon is apparently Erin's twin sister. So she has some issues. Anyway, Batman hears these shots being fired and all the sirens and stuff. So he made his way over, says no one's going anywhere. Starts chasing after Erin's getaway car and manages to keep a grappling hook on it. But then Erin pulls out a shotgun and basically shoots Batman off the car. He's fine, but Erin manages to get away and says to the driver, "Hey, I've got an address I want you to take me to. We're going to pay somebody a visit." And we see that the address they go to is the Dent household, where Harvey and Gilda are about to go out for a night out. Erin shows up at the door, and Harvey immediately is like, "Oh, Erin, what are you doing here? What are you doing at my house?" And she comments like, "Oh, you were always able to tell me and my sister apart. How did you do that? It takes only our parents are the ones that can do that." And he's like, "Oh, simple. You're the mean one." So at that point, she turns to Gilda and basically says, "Hey, your husband here robbed me of everything. I want to know, are you willing to die for your husband, Miss Dent?" And she pauses and says yes. And then she's like, "Cool." Pulls out a knife, drives it into her chest, says, "I would believe you." So at that point, Harvey goes nuts, starts shooting her other goons, and she goes to shoot Erin, but Erin manages to get the drop on him and knocks him out. Now we cut back to now, and Bruce Wayne is speaking with Erin in an interrogation room, just as Bruce Wayne. And apparently they went to a like prep school together when they were kids, and they were always getting into trouble together, but it was always like lighthearted stuff. But then over time, Bruce changed significantly and he's stopped being friends with her. But Aaron's trying to call in a favor, basically saying, hey, look, you know Batman. You are all over Batman Incorporated. If Harvey is coming after me, I want Batman's protection. And Bruce says, yeah, I don't think Batman is going to be cool considering you're the one who made Two-Face in the first place. So, no. And he gets up to go leave. And Aaron basically is like, oh no, you owe me. You owe me so much. And then she lets slip that Bruce basically begged her to use her mob family connections to hunt down her family's killer back when it first happened. And she's like, all right, but that part of me's gone. And I'm glad that it didn't happen. So at that point, Bruce gets escorted out of the room. And Aaron is going to be locked up at Blackgate Penitentiary. So at that point, she's in her cell, she's having some food, and then a guard comes in and says, hey, I need to look like they overpowered me. So he bashes his own head against the wall, and then a couple of prisoners come in saying, hey, people on the outside have access to our families, and they told us that we have to do this or else our families are going to get hit. So we're here to kill you so that you can't blab. And she's like, I was never going to blab anyway. I was like, well, now you definitely can't. And at that point, she starts fighting off all these prisoners, but she gets overwhelmed very quickly until standing in her doorway, telling all the other goons to back off, is Matches Malone, who, for those of you unfamiliar, is just a Bruce Wayne identity. And he says, hey, everybody, I'm the one who's protecting her right now, so back off. And they say, Matches, you're an idiot. Get out of here. And they start fighting Matches. Matches starts fighting back and manages to get Aaron away to safety as other guards show up to take that out. So they make their way down to a basement. Turns out Matches has some C4 set up to get out of Blackgate, but just as the explosion goes off, he drugs Aaron so that she passes out, and then they take her to the Bat sub in order to get her out of there. And when she finally comes to, she is in Wayne Manor, and Bruce Wayne is like, all right, I can't get Batman to help you, but I can help you here. So, yeah, that's the issue. I like it a lot more than the last one. The last one kind of just left me confused because it was throwing out a lot of stuff and just telling me, all right, here it is, just take it on face value and we'll get to the explanations later. And frankly, I feel like we have. I do question whether or not for this whole arc we're going to be flashing back further and further in Aaron's history, because obviously when we saw her last, she just killed Gilda. This one we get to see how she kills Gilda, but then we hear oh, she committed this crime and Shannon is dead. So I wonder if we're going to go back further and further until we get the inciting incident, more or less. And I'm curious to see what that would be. All in all, having this be like a four-way standoff between Aaron, Two-Face, Bruce Wayne, and Batman, I'm down for that. That seems interesting to me. It's an interesting thing. I don't see at the moment why this is part of Batman and Robin, why this is continuing on with that plot, because for 2 issues now, Robin's death has not really played a part. Obviously, we went through the whole grief thing, but I still expected there to be this sort of back current where it's still in process, where it's something he's still doing. But yeah, there's 2 straight issues without that. So if we're just going to spend a whole arc without that, this is essentially just a 4th Batman book with nothing different about it compared to Batman, Detective, and Dark Knight. So not that that's a bad thing. I mean, it's just strange to me that there's nothing separating this out right now except that it's Tomasi and Gleason. So all in all, I'd say this one's probably, I'll give it a 7. I think it's good. I think it's still missing that little extra wow factor to get me up to a 7.5 or an 8, but it's still a solid issue, and I'm looking forward to seeing at what point Two-Face and Batman are going to either get on the same side or come to some sort of agreement as to what's going to happen with Aaron. So yeah, all in the future, and we will get there.